Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about will CBD overtake THC? A white paper from BDS Analytics. On the line with us is Dan Chemist, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
Oh, I'm feeling contrarian this morning, Chronic, but we'll see how it goes. Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you are.
That's right.
So this white paper from BDS Analytics goes on to say, quote, more than 10% of all dispensary dollars in 2018 were attributed to CBD product sales, up over 3% from 2017, with 2019 trending further upwards as demand grows. As CBD grows increasingly mainstream, the effects on dispensary sales are expected to be positive. Heightened by public awareness of CBD among consumers has led to value adds for dispensaries. Normalized consumer attitudes towards CBD help to improve perceptions of cannabis in dispensaries in general. As consumers explore hemp-derived CBD in retail shops and online, cannabis grows less threatening and more alluring. Existing dispensary shopper behavior is unlikely to change with the availability of CBD in general retail. Some cannabis consumers believe CBD is most effective when combined with the cannabinoid THC, often referred to as the, quote, entourage effect. Because of cannabinoid combination is only available for purchase within dispensaries, consumers seeking the effect will continue to make their cannabis-related purchases through that dispensary channel. And so again, more than 10% of all dispensary dollars last year were attributed to CBD product sales, up from just 3% in 2017. Dan, what do you think?
So I am on the ground, right? And just a little bit of Danalytics for you, okay? So Dan runs around. I've been in over 1,700 weed shops in the last 2 years, right? And one of the things you see a lot of now is literally that CBD section, or if you're in Washington as an example, where they have some really implicit rules with regards to, or explicit rules with regards to where you put this versus that, you'll see a whole different store for selling the CBD stuff, right? So that must validate that it's selling enough to validate those kind of efforts. So I would say trend line, CBD, going to keep selling like a hotcake.
Definitely. So anything that's ingestible is going to have to be taken off the shelf unless it's through that dispensary channel. And that goes for California and Washington, which have banned all edible CBDs, all edible CBD and beverages. So this article goes in to say that in general, the ingestibles, topicals, and inhalables remain the top-selling CBD product categories, while many CBD products in dispensaries are sold as concentrates. Mainstream retail, due to regulation limits, has not embraced selling this form of consumption yet. So BDS says that looking ahead, their analytics anticipates that the growth of CBD sales through most product categories in dispensaries and in general retail, and that by 2024, they forecast sales will be more evenly distributed among primary retail channels, being dispensaries and e-commerce, pharma, grocery stores, nutritional and convenience stores. But it's going to be widely influenced on how the FDA formally regulates CBD-infused beverages and food. And so didn't they just come out and say that it's not a controlled substance? But that still doesn't overturn Washington State and California's laws. I know you're not a lawyer. What's your interpretation?
Well, this is the thing, right? Again, first, the confusion on the ground, right? Because you literally, in the press, you'll see what seems to be contradictory messaging. And yet, ultimately, okay, so here you go. Hemp-derived CBD-based beverages and edibles are illegal in the state of Washington because hemp-derived product falls under the purview of the FDA, okay? And so, again, you're right, I'm not a lawyer, but one of the things that's interesting is you can go into a retail cannabis shop and you can go get an edible, okay, that has THC, etc., okay, and it's okay to be sold because it's federally illegal, okay, whereas you go into the CBD store, you can't get that same edible with just CBD because it is federally legal, okay, and again, go wrap your head around that, and when you're done, come back and enjoy another episode of The Talking Hedge, your Cannabis Business Podcast.
So to your point that most of the regulations surrounding the hemp-derived CBD especially as it relates to consumer packaged goods, are the domain of the FDA. So this article goes in to say that the FDA conducted its first hearing on cannabis, the non-intoxicating cannabidiol, back in May, with more than 100 speakers offering views, including research, health advocates, manufacturers, staunch opponents. So one of the biggest takeaways was the universal need for more research into the perceived risks and health benefits of CBD. So amongst the most popular CBD product categories in 2018, the most popular in the US were ingestibles at $883 million. You're not going to be able to sell gummies because it's kids. They're not going to be able to be bright colors or certain shapes. So if you're getting into it, just know that there's going to be a lot of regulations and barriers and changes in packaging and all of those things that we've seen in every single emerging cannabis market.
This last week I was talking to somebody and I said, geez, okay, so what about tinctures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got several different opinions. Okay, and these are people on the ground who are making product. And this is, again, I'm not a lawyer, right? You're not a lawyer. The rules, you need a dang lawyer to be hanging out with you all day long now. It is really, the industry has become one of a very chaotic space, right? And again, for us, chaos makes good news. It makes interesting stories. It makes hard business. It really does make hard business.
I will be hanging out with a lawyer tomorrow, Tom Howard of Cannabis Legalization News. He's got a good podcast out there. We're going to be talking about some legal stuff. And then, his guest has a pretty cool vending machine. A lot of different point of sale and data and all of these components that interact with one another. So inventory control, all of this stuff is interesting. So Tom Howard is a lawyer. Check back after tomorrow with the live podcast at noon Pacific Standard Time. Number 2 most popular CBD product category is topicals. And so I find it interesting that some of the loopholes that I've seen on the West Coast is people making edibles, but branding it, labeling it, selling it as an actual topical. So you might have like infused butter, and so this butter you're supposed to kind of rub on your skin, and it's 500 or 1,000 milligrams, but people are just eating it. And so it's kind of an odd workaround, and the bud tenders know too, because people are coming in there and telling them what they're going to do with it. So I believe that as soon as the silver generation, the baby boomers, as soon as they get comfortable with the topicals, the suppositories, all of those products that no one is really buying right now, it'll increase more than just 491 million.
Yes. And again, I've been there. You're standing there and the bud tender tells you, yeah. Well, it's a breath spray, but what you do is you take the cap off and drink the whole thing, right? And you're like, really? And they're like, yeah, dude, that's how you get all 100 milligrams in a single dose, stuff like that. Yeah, it's an interesting market. Again, personally, I'm a big fan of letting the consumer do what the consumer wants to do. Nobody tells me how to consume my alcohol like that, etc. Not that I'm a drinker, but again, ultimately, these days, cannabis, a lot of new rules coming, a lot of things that they're going to try and trial, and we'll see what shakes out.
Number 3 on the list is inhalables. I'm not really sure what all that includes, if that's hemp CBD or if it's vapes or an asthmatic inhaler unit. But inhalables is at 395 million.
Well, the MDI, the metered dose inhaler, finally making its way out in a variety of different forms into the cannabis market after years of research. Personally, I put a big question mark by the MDI for a variety of reasons, metered dose inhaler, asthma inhaler. But yeah, again, in certain spaces and in particular with regards to medical applications, one of the things that's interesting about these things is there is a perception of medical usefulness and a space in the medical market. Again, I'm a bit of a naysayer, but that's a whole nother story.
Number 4 on the list is pet products. It's just about hitting 64 million. I know that I get my CBD pet products anytime 4th of July rolls around, which tends to be once a year, or New Year.
Yes.
anytime there's fireworks, basically, my dog isn't really, has a lot of anxiety. I exercise my dogs. My dog just passed away 3 months ago from a mast cell tumor. And so I was giving her a 20-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, and just a little bit, not a lot. And so with that helped her. I could tell immediately kind of the wrinkles in her forehead would soften. And she was in a lot less pain. And in fact, the heat from the tumor would reduce as well. So I'm a huge advocate for CBD for pets, for their anxiety, not because you're a bad dog owner and you don't walk your dog. That's a terrible reason. If your dog is digging holes or chewing your remote, it's because you suck. You need to take your dog out more often. This is for environmental factors or health concerns. And I think that the 64 million in pet products being the number 4 most popular CBD product is really, really low by comparison of what it will be.
Oh yeah, there are no bad pets. Okay, there are only bad pet owners. But I would also say, yeah, do both. Walk Fido, run Fido, and at the same time, yeah, help Fido live a better quality of life with less inflammation, which CBD may well do for them.
No doubt. And number 5, just like you mentioned, needs more research. So pharmaceuticals are only $16 million. We've seen that Epidiolex from GW Pharmaceuticals is the only company, only product to go through FDA trials and be approved. And so Epidiolex is a THC synthetic product, I guess. Marinol is also synthetic, and Marinol is terrible. A friend of mine with multiple sclerosis that passed away didn't want to use it, so he preferred joints. I don't think Epidiolex is probably going to be any better. I have no idea. This is my opinion. But more research, more products. I guess it'll validate it, professionalize it, normalize it. But no one's going to pay $32,000 for a kilo, or no one should, I should say. And unfortunately, these companies that pay so much money to the FDA want to siphon that out and take the money from your insurance company and force you to pay high premiums and all that good stuff that big pharma likes to do. So I'm going to stick with my OG cannabis and CBD.
Funding research, Chronic. You're funding research.
That's right. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is a Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.